All right, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Creative Hunter podcast. This is your host, as always, Logan Romney, and thank you guys for joining this week. I'm doing a solo podcast right now. Had some guests lined up, but it didn't quite work out with scheduling, so we got some guests coming the next couple weeks that are going to be really cool. I think a lot of you guys are going to like them, especially if you're into the photography and video stuff. We got some cool people in that side of the industry that have a lot of good stuff to say, that have been in the industry for a long time. So stay in touch for the next couple weeks for some good episodes coming. This week is all about optics and glassing. So I'm going to go over all of the optics that I use when it comes to hunting, and then go over some glassing tips and tactics and what I do when I show up to an area or I'm hunting a spot, and what's my process for glassing. Like, what do I do? How do I start? Where do I look? And all that kind of stuff. So we're gonna get into it super quick right now. I'm just gonna start off going through binos and everything about binos. So there's three main binos that I use, especially over this last year. These are the three ones that I've used the most. First is the newest one that I've got right now are the Hawk optics. These are the Frontier LRF. These are the range finding binos. I like these because they have the range finding capability. They're a 10x42 waterproof bino. They are really durable, and I've so far really liked the quality of them. They've performed really well. So I've taken them on one hunt, on a bear hunt this spring that we just got back from a few weeks ago. And I really like them, especially I throw them on my tripod and have them super steady on the tripod, and they were great. The rangefinder, I can range out to, the farthest I've ranged is about 1,800 yards, which obviously is way more than you need, but it's kind of nice to have that ability just kind of for fun and to see what you can see and how far stuff is. But then you can also, there's like modes on here that you can set for archery mode, so you can have a rangefinder that it'll range even closer for archery stuff. Haven't used these binos at all for archery yet, as far as the range-finding capabilities go. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know if I'm going to rock them when I'm doing archery hunts this fall or not. We'll just see. I kind of think I'll kind of later in the episode I'm going to kind of go over my what my plan is for the fall. It's for different hunts, what I'm going to be taking with me, because it does make a difference what optics I'm taking. So that's the first bino is the Hawk Frontier LRF. The other one that I love a ton is the Sig Sauer Zulu 6. These are stabilized binos. So these have built-in stabilization. So when you put them up, you just flip the switch, and right there, and they stabilize. It's actually crazy. You have to kind of see it to believe it. So if you ever get a chance to check out these Sig Sauers, whether you're at an expo or you got a buddy who has them, you should, because these are game changers. You don't need to glass off a tripod if you have these binos. These are 16s. They also make these in, I know they make them in 10s, 12s, 16s, and 20s. I don't know if they might do an 8 in there as well, but I'm not sure. But these are awesome. I love these. I'm kind of planning later this year on early archery hunts to bring these binos because of the capabilities of them, because they're stabilized, so I don't have to have a tripod to glass off of, and they're 16 power. So if I'm looking for mule deer early season in big country, these are going to be like my go-tos. I got these from a buddy, and I've just loved them. So they're used, but they're amazing. And what's really nice is they just take a AA battery, just one AA battery, so I can just throw a AA battery in my bino harness, and if I ever need to swap it out, I've got it. And if you accidentally leave them turned on after, I don't know how long it is, I think it's about 5 minutes or so, they'll automatically turn off. That way it doesn't burn your battery up. So really love these, and I'm looking forward to using these more throughout the year. on archery hunts and maybe on some rifle hunts, just depending on the situation and depending on what we're hunting in the area. So the other pair of binos, which I don't have with me right now, so I can't show you, but it's just a pair of Leopold 10x42s. I think they're one of the cheaper ones that they make. Right now, they're just like my car binos. They just stay in my car on my dash, and if I ever see anything and I want to look at it with binos without having to get my other stuff out, I just grab those ones real quick. They're good binos. There's no like features about them. They're just regular 10x42s. There's really like nothing crazy. But the thing is like I've used 10x42 binos literally my whole hunting career except for the last year since I've got some of these new binos. And obviously I've found stuff and killed stuff. So it doesn't like, you don't have to have the nicest, fanciest, stabilized or range finding binos to find and kill animals like at all. I honestly, people kill giant animals and tons of animals with just regular stuff. So I'm not saying that you have to go buy super fancy stuff to harvest a lot or big mature animals. Like it's not dependent upon the gear you have to a point. So they're great if you're getting into hunting or if you're just looking to upgrade to some binos and you don't have a huge budget. Looking at just some regular like 10x42s, 10x50s, maybe 12s, just kind of whatever your style is whatever is best for you. And so there's all sorts of different kinds of binos. Those are the three that I have been running, and just I've been loving them this season and this last year. So really like those. Next topic I wanted to cover is bino harnesses. Because there's a ton of bino harnesses out there, and a lot of them are really good. I think there's a few that I want to try out. I just haven't yet. But what I've been running, I was using the FHF gear. This is the first bino harness that they came out with, and I've had this one for a couple years now. And then they came out with a new bino harness, so the FHF, I think it's the fob is what they call it, and I love it. It's really nice. It's like magnetic, opens and stays right there in front. So when you open it up, that flap is just stuck to the front. Really nice, and then it just goes over. It's full coverage over the binos. It has MOLLE on the bottom and each side, and you can get different attachments like a rangefinder pouch. You can also get, this is like the Windicator, the wind pouch right here. It's got a pocket on the back, so sometimes I'll put like my phone or something inside there. Really like that. And then the pocket on the front. And what I do with the pocket on the front, I'll show you what's in it. It's just a zip pocket that goes across the whole front. I have earplugs in there for when I'm shooting my rifle. Always make sure to have those in if you have time, because it'll save your ears. And I have some chapstick sunscreen, because when you're glassing all day, it's a good idea to have that, because I've had my lips get super sunburned or super dry when I'm glassing. I also have this little bag it's got all sorts of tools in it, mostly just Allen wrenches. It's got Allen wrenches for tripod plates, for camera gear, and then it's got a few different sizes for some bino stuff and some rifle stuff. So it's just good to have some of those Allen wrenches with you all the time. They stay in here all the time. That way, if I ever need something, I've got the tools. It's just being prepared. And then a couple more things in here. I have these couple extra batteries for the range finding binos that I was running for the bear hunt, so I've got these in here. These I think are similar. They might be the same batteries for most rangefinders as well. I'm really not sure, but I know these are the exact batteries for my range finding binos, so I just have them in here just in case I was to run out of battery. And then I have my tags and licenses always in here. So that's all I keep in the bino harness, so that all just fits in this front pocket. There's even more room. Actually, I do have inside, underneath my binos, I keep this lens cloth to clean off stuff if things ever get dirty. And I just stick my binos right in there over top of that lens cloth, and it's totally fine. So you can see there, full coverage over the binos. So the reason I don't have the bino or the rangefinder piece attached to the bino harness right now, I do have like a rangefinder pouch, is because I was using the range-finding binos on the bear hunt. So I decided to just leave the rangefinder behind. And the range-finding binos worked fine the whole trip. They didn't have any issues, so I was pretty excited about that. I had the rangefinder back at the trailhead just in case for some reason the binos didn't work out. But they were great, so really stoked about how that happened. And then, so that's what I've got for bino harnesses and binos. Next thing is spotter. I don't have it with me right now, but I have a Swarovski ATX. I have 2 different objective lenses on it. I have a 65 millimeter objective and an 80. The 80 is a lot bigger than the 65 and much heavier, so I'm only going to take the 80 on hunts that are very, very glassing intensive. So for example, a bear hunt in the spring, I'm going to take the 65. It's much lighter. If I'm backpacking in, I don't need the light or the zoom of an 80 millimeter objective. Especially if we're just judging bears. We're not looking at antler size or anything. And if we see a bear miles and miles away, it's not like you have to judge it necessarily as well as you would a mule deer or maybe an elk. So if I'm going on almost any mule deer hunt, and sometimes some elk hunts, I'm gonna take the 80 mil objective. It is bigger, it's heavier, but in my opinion, it is worth having it. You can zoom in a little farther with it. I don't remember exactly how far you can zoom, but you can zoom in further with the 80 mil, and you just have a bigger objective. So in the early morning or late evening when it starts to get dark, you have more light coming in, and it's just a lot more crisper and clearer of an image with the 80. So that's what we've got for spotters. I also, on my spotter, I keep the MagView adapter on the top, which is really nice. It just flips over, it acts as a cover, and you flip it open. And then on my phone, I actually have the MagView plate, you can see, and so that just magnets right on there, and I film through that. And I'll use that way of filming through my phone. I'll do that if I'm filming hunts for other people too. So I'll take the spotter with me and I'll film hunts. Film kill shots and film animals through the spotter, and it works really good. Really been impressed with that. There's also, Hawk sent me 2 of their mini spotters. They're like really tiny. I wish I had them to show you, but I don't have them to show you on the video. But if you can look them up, they're the mini spotters. They have an angled spotter and a straight one. They sent me both of them. They're tiny, and they're actually decent. They're really quite good quality for how small and light they are, and I've been really impressed. Probably will end up using them a little bit on some hunts, especially if I don't want to pack the weight of a spotter, but I want something like a spotter. I'll definitely be taking some of those small little guys on some hunts. Maybe that straight spotter. I feel like that's just a really good combo with that little straight spotter. If you want a spotting scope but you don't want a lot of weight, that's a good option to go with. And they're really not that expensive for how good they are. So you have to check those out at Hawk Optics, those little spotters. So far, really liked them. Haven't taken them on a hunt yet. Just been trying them out and different stuff, and really good. The rangefinder that I use, I actually don't have a very nice rangefinder. It's just a Sig Sauer. It's probably a bit of one of the cheaper ones. But the thing is I only use it for archery. I do use it. I used to use it for rifle hunts, but now that I have these binos, I'm going to be taking the binos on all my rifle hunts. The rangefinder I've got, it probably only ranges out to 800 yards, maybe 700. But I pretty much only use it for archery, so I'm really not concerned how far it will range as long as it will get me accurate ranges for archery, and it's done awesome. So that's the rangefinder I'm using. Really like it. Sig Sauer. They make really good stuff. I don't actually know any of the guys over there who work there, but all the optics I've used from them, I've been very impressed with. So, and then another piece of gear that is new for this spring that I've really liked is by Asiac Equipment. They make these bino clamps. So it's this little ring that goes on your bino. If you haven't seen them or heard of them, you should look them up. But it has on the bottom a little Arca Swiss sized mount. So this ring just stays on my binos all the time, and it's skinny enough that it still fits in my bino harness, and then it'll clamp onto my tripod. So it just sits on my tripod just like this. If you're watching the video, and you can see that it's super solid, it stays on there, and it's so small, like it's just awesome. I've used in the past tripod mounts for binos that like screw into the front of the binos. They're a little janky, and I don't like having that extra piece that if I want to mount on my tripod, I have to take it out and put it on. This bino clamp, it just saves weight, it saves time. It's so nice to have. Definitely would recommend getting one of these bino clamps on your binos. They even make a bino clamp that fits around these SIG stabilized ones too, which I don't have. Maybe someday I'll get it, but I don't really feel like I would need to mount those binos on a tripod since they are stabilized. But sometimes it is nice to just have the binos pointed right at something. If you're watching an animal and you just want them to stay there, you can just watch that animal through the binos instead of having to hold them. Even though the stabilization makes it nice, your arm still will get tired. The other piece of gear that is new, I think this is the last one, is tripod. So I'm using this brand new, this is the Peak 44 Teton tripod. So far, I'm super impressed with it. It's really light. It has some cool features that are kind of hard to show on the camera, but it has a center swivel post. So you can, if the tripod's a little bit uneven, you can swivel this center post and you can level it up just perfectly with the terrain you're in. And then it has this handle for the movement. It's a fluid head, and it's a one twist, adjusts up and down and left and right. So you just tighten that down, it's locked in. You can loosen it up, and then you can adjust the whole thing. So if you're watching on the video, you can see it's really quite the slick deal. And then it has the Arca Swiss mount. So if you have a rifle with a plate on it, you can mount it on the tripod. The tripod, I have the shorter column on right now, but there's a longer center column, so you can go up and down with it and adjust it. But if you're shooting with a rifle, you can just put the shorter column on, have the rifle on. You can even spread these tripod legs, like you can spread them literally flat, but obviously you'd want them a little high, and then you can adjust with this ball head that's in the actual center of this tripod. It's really cool, really sweet idea. The guys over at Peak 44, they work with Weatherby as well. My buddy Kobe Owens got me hooked up with this tripod, and I haven't taken it on a hunt yet because I literally got it a few days after I got back from the bear hunt, but I'm really stoked to try this tripod out. And then another thing that I'm going to be doing, since I have two lightweight tripods now, I've got my other tripod. It's a Surui tripod that I've been using for a long time, which I really like, but I think the features on this Peak 44 a little bit more. I want to be packing both tripods with me, since they're both of them are really light, so it's really not that much of a weight consequence. It's maybe 3 pounds. I don't know the exact numbers, but a little bit extra. But when I'm self-filming hunts especially, I want to set my camera up on a tripod and still glass with my spotter or binos off a tripod, so I can film myself doing stuff. So I'm gonna be packing both tripods, using one, my old tripod, as a camera tripod because it's got a ball head, and I kind of like that a little bit more than a pan head for camera stuff. But then I'll use this pan head because I like pan heads more for glassing, and it'll be just like kind of the perfect combo. So um, I'll probably end up doing some infield stuff, showing some gear and what I'm doing as far as all that stuff goes later on, especially in the fall. So I think that's it for glassing gear. I'm not going to go over rifle scopes because I'm currently looking for some new stuff. I have a couple different scopes that I use right now, but I think I'm just going to save it for a different video as far as rifle stuff goes, just to save some time. So I'm going to get into some tips and tactics and just kind of what I do when I start glassing. So in general, if I show up to any area that I'm hunting, the first thing I want to do is to get back from the mountain and glass a ton of country, especially if it's an area I've never been to. I want to get to a spot where I can just see a ton of country, and if there's a lot of times I'm just trying to find a knob or even a road that's off the mountain a couple miles that I can see a lot of stuff that's huntable, and I'm just gonna glass. And I'm so far away normally that it's not like I can glass there and then I'm gonna make it there to make a stock on an animal within a couple hours. It's gonna be a long time till I can get on those animals, but I want to see where are the animals at right now, what elevation are they at, where am I gonna find stuff. Now, not all areas that I'm hunting have this type of terrain. Sometimes things are going to be a lot tighter and it's going to be harder to find big vantage points, but that's kind of the first thing I'm looking for. Where can I see the most country? Because I can glass all that country for a morning or an evening and really see, okay, there's bucks or there's bulls hanging out at this elevation, and this type of stuff. Now I know, okay, now I'm gonna move closer and maybe get up on top of a ridge or something that's way closer and really start hunting those animals. That's the way I like to do it. And when I'm early season hunting for like deer, it's really the same thing. I'm gonna get up on vantages and I'm just gonna be glassing tons of country all day, and I'm looking for animals moving and feeding out in open areas. And I'm glassing from like dark in the morning to dark at night. I'm on the glassing knob before I can even see, and then I'm sitting there until I can't pick out anything in the glass. And I'm not necessarily glassing all day. Like I'll probably take a nap or something in the middle of the day, but it's like if it's like 2 in the afternoon, I'm gonna be glassing every once in a while, occasionally some areas to see if there's any movement, because a lot of times animals will get up in the afternoon and move around as the sun starts creeping around and the shadows move. So it's something to keep in mind. You want to really be thinking about what time, when you're glassing throughout the day, because a lot of times midday animals will move. And I think, like, honestly, that most hunters, they think about, okay, morning's really good and evening's really good. They don't think about the middle of the day because everyone goes back to camp in the middle of the day, or they're sleeping all during the middle of the day. And some days there's not going to be any movement at midday. It's just going to be super hot. The animals are going to be really tucked up in shade, and they're not going to be out. But I've seen it, like, ever since I started glassing afternoons. Like, I've seen I see animals almost every time. It's actually kind of crazy. And I'll glass like deep timber pockets in shade where deer are hanging out, and they'll get up and they'll feed in the afternoon. Elk will do the same thing. Bears especially will do the same thing. Bears will be out in the afternoon, midday. Bears will be out any time of day. Honestly, they're just they kind of do what they want to do. So glassing all day is a huge thing, and it's a big tip that I hear a lot of really good hunters talk about as well. Is have a vantage point where you can see a lot of country and glass for a really long time. So those are the big things. Now, when I get to a glassing knob and it's a good spot, I can see a lot of country. There's a few things that I go through or that I do mostly subconsciously when I get to a spot is I want to make sure I'm comfortable. So bringing a glassing pad, sometimes I'll even pack up like a 1 pound foldable chair. I have a nice little foldable chair that I'll bring, and I'll set that up and sit down if I know I'm going to be there for a long time. So get comfortable, have your tripod, because you don't want to be glassing all day with using like holding your binos up. It wears your arms out and it wears you out, and it wears your eyes out too. So when you have binos on a tripod versus if you're holding them, like you can see, I've heard people say like, and I do believe it, is that like if you have like a $300 pair of binos on a tripod, it makes them a $2,000 pair of binos, just because since they're stable, you can see way better. Like it's like, imagine if you had a spotting scope and you're trying to handhold a spotting scope. It's like almost impossible to see anything. When you put it on a tripod, it's like perfect. Same thing with binos. If you have a pair of 10 power binos and you're just hand holding them, you can spot a lot of stuff, and I do it all the time. But when you put them on a tripod, it makes it like that 10 times better because it's so stable. So make sure you're comfortable, and make sure you're stable. Those are the two biggest things for longevity when it comes to glassing. The other thing is, it kind of sounds, it doesn't really sound like a glassing tip, but it's a huge one that I think is staying hydrated and having like some snacks, or not being too hungry, because those are two big things that can really wear you out throughout the day. So remember to drink water, drink electrolytes. If you're sitting there all day, so if it's sunny especially, or if it's cold, and then have some snacks. I love to snack when I am glassing. Like I'll be glassing and I'll like run out of snacks, and it's like noon and I'm like, dang, I ate all my snacks for the day. So I got to ration myself, but I love snacking when I'm glassing. So bring some snacks to snack on while you're glassing for animals. Let's see, the other thing. So when I start glassing an area, when it comes to how am I going to break up the area that I'm glassing, I'm going to start looking for animals in places that I think are going to most likely hold animals. And so what does that mean? So early morning, well, it depends on what I'm hunting, but I'm thinking about the behavior of the animals and what is that animal going to be doing at what time of year and what time of day. So for example, on our bear hunt that we just went on, bears are historically known to not be very active in the morning, but they're very active mid to late morning and also mid to late afternoon is kind of what I found. So when I pull up to an area for bears, I'm going to be looking in areas where those bears are going to be hanging out the most of their time. And it's going to be green, really green, grassy areas, areas with some water, possibly. It doesn't have to have water. And then if I'm not seeing a lot of bears in those types of areas, I'm going to start looking in shaded areas, right? Maybe I'll find some bears bedded, because then you can kind of really narrow down the types of places you're going to look first. So look in areas that are going to hold, that are most likely to hold animals first when you first sit down and start glassing. When it comes to mule deer, I'm going to be like early morning, I'm glassing edges of timber. I'm glassing ridge lines, places where those deer are going to be hanging out early morning, where most of the time I'll see them early morning. Or a lot of times too, like small clearings in timber for elk and deer are good areas to look as well. Places where they feel sheltered, but you can still see them, is kind of the money spots that I've really had good success in. So I'm finding hillsides that are mostly timber covered, but they have patches, or it's a little bit open enough that you can still see inside the timber. Those areas are really good. If they're burnt areas too, with a couple live timber patches, those can be good spots. So looking in areas that really most people aren't going to look in because they're a little bit harder to glass, and at first glance it's like, oh, I don't think there's anything living there, but as you watch those areas, you can see that there's actually a lot of activity in there when it comes to elk and deer. So that's where I start when I start glassing an area, is places that are most likely to hold animals. After I've glassed those areas, if I've seen stuff or not, or pretty much if I haven't seen what I'm looking for, I'm going to start gridding a lot of the stuff. So I'll have the spotter or my binos, and I'm just going to grid back and forth on the hillside. And I'm looking at everything, because there could be animals way out in the open where you wouldn't expect them, or like anywhere. So I'm looking all over the place, at all areas of the mountain, gridding. And then as we get into the afternoon, and those animals start to bed up more, I'm going to be looking in a lot of shaded areas. If it's mule deer and even bears, a lot of the time, I'm going to be looking towards the sun where the shade is facing me, because those animals are going to be on my side of trees and shade and stuff. It's hard to glass up animals in the shade, bedded down. It takes a lot of time. I usually set up the spotter, I get comfy, and I just go really slow, and I'm glassing every little shade patch I can see on each face of the mountains that I'm looking at. And you'll find stuff for sure. You'll find animals, especially if you glass an area in the morning and you move to a different spot in the afternoon. Instead of waiting for the evening to start glassing, just start glassing as soon as you get there, because there's a good chance you can find stuff bedded up in shade. And then as the evening goes on, just going to keep looking in areas, really put a high priority on areas that look like they have the best potential to have animals in them, and still just keep your eye on all the other spots. So that's how I break it up when I show up to a spot and I'm going to glass. And the more you do it, the better you get, the easier it gets to glass. I know I'm way better now at glassing than I was when I started hunting when I was younger. It just comes with time, and the more you do it, it starts to just become really natural. I go out now and I hardly even think about it. Like, I don't even think about really like, okay, where am I going to see stuff? It's just like, yep, there's like that ridge line or the edge of the trees and that pocket. Like, I'm just looking in those places and I'm really focusing on those areas. And so that's the biggest tip, honestly, is just get out and do it. And it doesn't matter what time of year. You can practice glassing any time of year, which is kind of fun. I go out in the winter time and I'll drive around and I'll glass for deer and elk in the winter. Springtime, bears, turkeys, anything, even elk and deer if you're looking for sheds or something. And then in the summertime, get out, scout for deer, scout for elk. What's good about this type of skill is that it can be built any time of year. You don't have to be hunting to build glassing skill. And glassing is arguably, especially in my opinion, one of the most important parts of hunting. So make sure to really get it down, because I really believe the more you the glass and the better you are at it, the more animals you're going to find and the better hunter you're going to become. You'll just be able to find animals in places and just kind of learn the animals better, and you'll find better areas to hunt the more you do it, because you'll learn like, okay, this area I'm not finding a lot of animals, let's move to a different spot and we'll glass. Maybe let's sit back a little bit and just glass a lot of country and see what we can find. And everything comes down to glassing and finding the animals. So I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. If you have any questions you want answered, whether it's camera gear, whether it's hunting, throw them in the comments, shoot me a message on Instagram, or put a comment on YouTube or Spotify. Thanks for watching. If you guys want any discounts on gear that I use personally, you can find them below in the description. I've got a bunch of brands that I use and I love and I have good relationships with, and there's some discounts down there. It also helps support me, and you get a discount. So check that stuff out, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.